The arena's scoreboard froze at 11 seconds. A digital tombstone for 12 galactic empires. Around Jessa Thorn, 12 of the Academy's finest warriors lay scattered across the sand like discarded armor. High above, the Jumbotron flickered with her biometric data. The flat, rhythmic green line. 65 beats per minute. Jessa exhaled. The sound cutting through the stunned silence of 2,000 predators. She had come to the Bastion Zenith for an audit. And she was precisely on schedule. You might think weakness is a choice. On Earth, it was our only weapon. 6 hours earlier, the docking clamps had locked with a resonance that vibrated through Jess's teeth. The air inside the hangar smelled of sulfur and recycled coolant, the signature scent of Korg on engineering. Jessa stepped onto the platform, a single canvas satchel slung over her shoulder. She looked up at the cathedral-sized arches, feeling the immense weight of the asteroid-carved fortress. To the Gorgons, she was a speck of dust in a palace of giants. Grand Marshal VORS stood at the edge of the observation gallery, his secondary auxiliary claws twitching against the railing. He watched Jessa approach, his obsidian scales catching the dim red glow of the station's artificial sun. He did not offer a hand or a salute. To a Gorgon, Jessa was a biological curiosity, an emissary from a species that had survived through endurance rather than dominance. The Terran Defense Corps sent an instructor. VOR, Des said, his voice a low-frequency rumble that rattled Jessa's ribs. We expected a general, or at least someone with a weapon. Jessa tapped the synthetic dampening cane rusting against her hip. It was 45 centimeters of matte gray polymer, weighted at the base. I brought everything I need for the audit. Marshal. A sneer rippled through the ranks of cadets behind the marshal. Harak, a crimson-crested Gorgon standing 9 feet tall, stepped forward. He moved with a heavy, deliberate grace, his thermal sensing pits glowing a faint orange. He looked at Jessa's small frame and let out a sound like grinding stones, a toy of a child used for balance. Chef Horror crumbled. Is that the pinnacle of human martial technology? Jessa didn't look up. She was busy checking a digital tablet, recording the way or a test left auxiliary limb lagged by 40 milliseconds when he turned. Precision is a weapon. Horror. But most people are too loud to use it. The afternoon proceeded with the brutal rhythm of the Bastion. Jessa sat in a giant's eyes chair in the training hall, her legs dangling far above the floor. She watched the cadets. The Lycanese pairs clicked in ultrasonic harmony, their movements a blur of furry fangs. The Mantuids practiced their 360-degree thermal strikes, their chitinous wings buzzing. Every lunge, every pivot, every recovery time was entered into Jessa's tablet. She wasn't looking for their strength. She was hunting for the math of their failure. By the third hour, the tension in the hall was a physical weight. The cadets felt the human's eyes on them. It wasn't the gaze of a soldier. It was the cold, analytical stare of a tax collector measuring a debt. Horak eventually stopped his drill and slammed a clawed fist into a steel pillar, leaving a 4-inch indentation. Enough of the record typing. Horak bellowed. If you are here to teach, show us what your fragile kind offers the galaxy, or admit that you are merely here to watch your superiors. Jessa stood up slowly. She adjusted the strap of hers. Agilin took a small, measured sip of water from a canteen. The room went quiet. This was the moment of friction, the point where the hierarchy demanded a sacrifice. I wish to invoke Protocol Zero, Jessa said quietly. VORS froze. The command railing groaned as his grip tightened. Protocol Zero was an ancient martial code within the unified galactic era. It allowed a visiting expert to demonstrate their species' combat doctrine through an open trial. On Bastion Zenith, it was effectively a death sentence. It meant one against many, with no limit on force. You are an augmented human. VOR is warned. Protocols RO ignores biological safety margins. If Horak and his cadre enter that ring, they will hunt you with the full intent of their nature. Jessa looked at the scars along the knuckles of her dominant hand. The price of 1,000 lessons learned on a much harsher world. I am aware. 12 cadets. No weapons other than biological ones for them. My cane for me. Let's see if your evolution has kept up with my checklist. As they walked toward the central arena, Jessa felt the first spike of adrenaline. It wasn't the wild, panicked heat of the prey. It was the high-octane fuel of a mind that knew exactly how much damage it could take. She noted the sulfur tang of the air one last time. The arena was a vast bowl of crushed obsidians, and the 2,000 spectators in the galleries were silent. Their thermal-pitching sensory organs locked onto the small woman in the center. Sahara clad 11 other cadets, 3 like in his, 4 mantuids, and 4 of his own kind. They formed a crescent, a hunting formation designed to funnel prey into Achilles' zone. Jessa gripped her cane. She didn't adopt a stance. She simply stood, waiting for the first mistake. The buzzer shrieked, and the crescent collapsed. The Lycanids were first. They moved in a synchronized blur, their ultrasonic clicks coordinating a pincer attack. Jessa didn't wait for them to reach her. She lunged forward, not away. She emitted a sharp, high-frequency chirp from a device on her collar, perfectly synced to the Lycanid's inner ear. The coordination shattered. The lead Lycanid stumbled, its balance organ overwhelmed by the discord. Jessa spotted the weighted base of her cane striking the throat latch of the second. 2 down before the sand had even settled. A man-to-aid striker lunged from her blind spot. Jessa didn't turn. She had already calculated the 60 millisecond muscle twitch in its primary thorax. She dropped flat against the obsidians, and the man-to-lead collided Mydra with one of the Korgon cadets. While they were entangled, Jessa rose like a spring and delivered a synaptic ridge straight to the man-to-id's nerve cluster. It folded instantly. The air was filled with the screech of metal and the heady thud of falling bodies. Jessa was a ghost in the machinery. She wasn't parrying their strength. She was flowing through the gaps in their perception. Face me. Jira Accord, his massive torque swinging a claw that could decapitate a bull. Jessa entered the cage, the reach of his primary limbs. This was the Alpha state, the point where the philosophy of the human race met the physical certainty of the Korgon. She allowed the claw to grace her shoulder, the fabric of her uniform tearing. She felt the hot sting of blood, but she didn't flinch. She needed the proximity. She Horakas, left auxiliary limb, had the latency she had recorded hours ago. As he overextended, Jess stepped into his shadow. She struck 3 times in rapid succession. The weighted cane hit the central spinal pillar with the precision of a surgeon's hammer. The Alpha Cordon's nervous system misfired. His massive obsidian plates rattled as his legs gave out. He crashed to the sand, the impact sending a cloud of black dust into the air. Jessa stood in the center of the wreckage. She looked at the scoreboard. 11.3 seconds. The silence that followed was heavy, ancient, and terrifying. VORS stared down from the gallery. He noticed something no one else had. The cane wasn't just a weighted rod. It was a sensory dampener, designed to mask Jessa's own biosignatures. She hadn't just fought them. She had made herself invisible to their primary senses. VORS descended the stairs, his boots echoing against the stone. He stopped 5 paces from Jessa and looked at the 12 unconscious masters of evolution. You didn't use strength. VOR, as whispered. Strength is the loudest form of fear. Marshal, Jessa replied, her voice steady despite the blood on her shoulder. We are predators who lost our fangs. We are the hunted who learned to rewrite the syllabus. We spent 100,000 years being the weakest things in the room. You learn a lot about a monster when you're the one it's trying to eat. Jaw stirred on the sand, his crimson crest dull. He looked up at Jessa, not with rage, but with a haunting realization. He had planned for prey. She had delivered a nightmare. Jessa placed the synthetic dampening cane on the arena floor. It stood upright for a second before toppling over. The gray polymer scarred from the encounter. It was no longer a child's toy. It was the lever that had toppled a millennium of martial certainty. She turned and walked toward the hangar. leading the giants to audit their own failure. VOR has watched her go, his auxiliary claws slowly relaxing for the first time in years. The charcoal rod lay still against the black sand. A single bead of Jess's blood dried on the matte surface.